All right, folks. So I'm going to. Do you want to just get right into playing? I see a yes from Jeff. Okay. So I'm going to reset the score one more time. Should all have fresh images. And they all say control, so let me do it again. There we go. Okay. So we know it can happen. And I will hit start in 5 seconds. And. Jeff, are you talking? I don't hear you.
I was whispering. I was trying to be dramatic.
Sorry, our fan.
I said, Ship of Theseus, awesome.
Tony, you still there?
I'm here. I turned my mic down so we can hear some air conditioning sounds. Unlike Vesper, I'm not afraid of the air conditioning.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
Comments. How about that?
Comments.
Let's go around the table. Who goes first? How about Wise One?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Bring her in.
Have Anna go first.
Wise One, speak. Jackie O.
She's eating peanut butter.
Sounded good.
Well, that's sticky.
Tight.
Classic.
Great graphics. Great on the beach.
All right, how about Nick? Tell us what you think, Nick.
Having the graphic images really gave me something to think about during the performance, and I admittedly I spent less time listening though, but I was conscious about who I was controlling when it was my turn to control.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, jumping on that the pictures of knowing who's making sound, it's interesting. The status light helps you know if sound is coming in, but it's not perfect because it depends on what it's sort of connected to. My status light, at least the way I set it up, was of am I making direct sound? But Nick, intelligently, when he was controlling for a long time at the end there, was continuing to control my loop even though I was no longer making direct sound, even after I'd switched to control, because there was a whole section where we had 4 people controlling, but there was still sound because Nick continued to control my loop.
Yeah.
And so we had loop happening even though I wasn't. So he was doing it based on what he was hearing, presumably, and the fact that it was working. And so one of the things that occurred to me I need to do, I do think it should be something we know. I need to know what I'm controlling for whomever, so I can in part know when it's going to have and what it's connected to, so I can know whether it's going to have an impact. I do think that's something we should probably just share with each other as we hone our patch, because the way that the looper works, once you turn it on, it stops recording new material, so you can continue to edit or continue to manipulate it well after the person has stopped playing. But you can't do that for a pitch shifter if the person's not playing live.
Yep.
So unless the pitch shifter is after the looper in order, unless it has to do with the sequence. And so you need to sort of know whether or not what you're doing is going to have an impact. And it's clearly going to have an impact if the person is in a sound situation. But it's not clearly going to have an impact if they're in a control environment unless you know what you're controlling and where it is in the signal path.
I've got my looper first for that very reason. I was like, well, coming out of that, things could still be affected.
Well, I think that's a good idea, but say your looper or the looper that's controlled by somebody else? Or is that the same thing? Do you use your looper even after you've stopped playing?
My looper is the first thing on the effects chain, and I use the micro version, the mini version, not the micro version. So mine has 2 channels. So I do control one channel, although I didn't touch it this time. But the other side, controlled by I think it's Tony. This time
I have
was
a
if that was playing, then even if I wasn't playing, that could still have been maybe making sound if the looper was on.
But he has to catch it before you go to. Before you play again, because otherwise there won't be anything in there because it will have gone to silent, correct?
That's true.
Yeah. As I said, it sort of worked. It worked out that time because Nick was playing with my looper when we were all silent. Otherwise.
I do think that things got very shrill. and at least on my side, things don't sound very good.
You mean in terms of distortion?
Distortion, general audio quality. So I think that might have something to do with the feed that goes out to the stream is not the same one that we're seeing in the group chat. So that could be part of it. I mean, it's important that we can hear each other well. Like, it's better that I hear Jeff's audio quality better. What am I trying to say? It's certainly better for the performance if I can hear good quality audio from all of you. That being said, the group chat does more to compress it than the direct feeds that are going out to the stream. So the stream might actually still sound better, but from here, everything was pretty crunchy. Except for my sound, because of course mine's direct. Mine's not, I'm listening to mine locally. You guys are all listening to yours locally, so I assume on your ends, I don't know how much you were able to tell, but that like your sound, sound quality of what you were doing was, for me, was better than what was coming from you guys. But I think that's just because of the group chat window is deliberately compressing everything because it's like meant to handle 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people, whatever.
I'm not sure what exactly you're saying. I'm sorry.
I'm saying things don't sound good, but it might sound better on the stream.
Where does it sound bad? Does it sound bad just to us, or does it sound bad on the stream?
That's the thing. I don't know. The YouTube
I mean, did it sound worse to you this time than last time?
I don't think so, but your voices sound fine. It's the audio, it's the music stuff that sounds pretty crunchy. So I should I'm gonna go back to watch the stream and see if it's any better there.
Yeah, I guess I'll say I didn't think that the mute on my end it didn't sound terrible or different significantly than last time. So I'll be curious to hear what it sounds like when you go back and watch the stream.
Yeah. I think there's a chance that the stream is much better, but it's a question of whether or not we want to tackle like being able to hear each other better,
I think those are good concerns for sure. Just like flipping through it, it didn't seem bad. I can listen to different portions of the stream even though it's live right now. I don't think that we were clipping or overwhelming. I mean, there were some shrillish sounds, but that might have been intentional.
I think there's a difference between what we're going to hear in the group chat and what we're going to hear on the stream. So we should.
Sure.
It's something I can maybe look at and see like, is there a way to hear each other better while we're performing, or do we just have to deal with hearing each other in like inequality while the stream quality is much better? They're two different sources. That's the thing, or I should say they're two different. Whatever. They're not the same. They're not the same links.
Okay. Yeah, check the stream to see how it sounded. I didn't have any problems playing today based on what I was hearing. I will say that. Like I felt like I was hearing what I needed to hear to be able to make musical decisions. So it's possible you heard you heard different at your place than I did. I don't know. But I didn't have any problem performing based on the quality of what I was hearing. But we obviously need to make sure that what's going out sounds good. I do to echo Nick's comment. The score thing really helped, I thought, significantly for me to have a focus on what I was doing, and I found it interesting to look at the patch and look at the picture and try to come up with a musical gesture related to it, whether it was on the synth or whether it was on the patch that pulled up. And all of the images, I keep saying patch, all of the images that popped up, I found something to do. Whether or not I don't know that there's any connection between the choice of gesture I make and the choice of gesture that someone else makes for the same image. I'm not sure how much that matters. I did find myself at a certain point trying to Like if a picture came up, I would start playing it based on what I was seeing, and then usually I would sort of gravitate to developing that idea over the rest of my 80 to 110 seconds or whatever it was, based on what was happening to me. I thought it was fascinating that some people, based on who had control, what that would do to my sound. That was kind of interesting. So if someone who had control was adjusting my pitch, I had to figure out how to deal with that, which I thought was fascinating. Because it would essentially disrupt my gesture almost. Whereas a person who has a loop doesn't disrupt my gesture but adds to my gesture based on the way I have my patch set up. But those were interesting experiences, and I found them noteworthy. I thought that I do think that the amount of time we had, it wasn't as chaotic as it has been in the past musically, because we controlled the number of people making sound at once. So sometimes we've had 4 people making sound and it's kind of chaotic and we're not sure who's doing what. This time it was clear who's doing what, and I felt like we could hear the musical gestures. So I did think that there were more successful moments to me today than usual, because it was easier to hear what was happening.
Yeah, I agree with that totally. Because when we're not all playing in the room to listen to each other a bit more, and having the score kind of make that for me was nice. And I like being able to be like, okay, I'm controlling for a while now, and I can let them play. And with a looper, like, people are controlling that looper, so that can be my performance for a bit while I'm focusing on something else. And the only thing I think I struggled with really was just trying to balance everything, like jumping between the main patch to control things, and then get back to the looper patch, and then my synth is an external, like Jeff's, right? So, or external instrument. So I think still balancing everything and how I can control everything is still kind of tricky, but I'll have to figure that out as we go. If it's possible to condense things a bit. But I wasn't always paying as close attention to every single element because of how spaced apart I feel like everything is.
The score definitely, I mean, back to what you were saying about seeing each other's signal lights. I feel like the score does more for that than the signal lights do. We could keep both, but we could focus more on...
I like both.
I found myself to go between those two. I knew who was supposed to be playing because of the score. And so I could say, okay, great, Nick is making sound now, so I should be able to focus on him. But then I did look at the signal light sometimes, and I can say this, like, I know for Eric I'm controlling his pitch shift. So I knew he was playing, I could watch that and then try to play, like, I saw the light come on and I would turn. I saw the light come on and I would turn. If the light wasn't on, I would wait. So I use both in combination. I think that there is a value to that. I think it's important to know, again, what I'm controlling, and I still don't know totally for Nick and Tony what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing for either of them, or where it is in the signal path. And so I do think at some point we should come up with just tell everyone, this is how my patch looks, this is where you are in the signal path.
Mm-hmm.
This is what the status light means when you see it on for me. And I can prepare that. Like, I could just write up a document that says, Nick, you're controlling this. This is, the toggle has no effect, or it has an effect, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should get that information. So I can just write that up for my patch and send it to everybody. If everyone could send that to us, then we would know what we're controlling and how
That's
the
a great
toggle light
idea.
is going to work and what the status light means.
There's definitely a balance between, or there needs to be a balance struck between chaos and randomness and order. And I mean, that's kind of like one of those, like, Captain Obvious statements, but in this system that we're trying out, it's like, okay, we're finding the ways that we should implement some order, but also ways that we can keep things a little more open. And I think knowing what you're controlling of each other's. I mean, for you, Jeff, it was kind of obvious because when I would move your slider, all of a sudden it was like a dramatic change. But for some of the other ones, I don't think it's. Am I controlling your pitch shift too?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're both controlling each other's pitch shift, and when I would move slider for you, it was like, pretty obvious.
Well, and I think also, like, to some extent, knowing what the slider does, like, if my slider goes, if you pitch shift and you're going down to really low, all of a sudden it's going to turn my pitch way down. And so you might say, okay, I only want to stay between 40 and 60 so I can mildly affect your pitch.
Yeah.
Whereas for somebody else, like I know for my V spreader, the higher numbers have a much more significant impact. And the low it's like a wide difference makes more sense on that than some of the others. And maybe you want to live in a wide, or maybe you want to. So I just think understanding, now that we understand what they do, it helps. But yeah, I'll prepare that document. Just says this is where what my patch looks like, and here's what everyone has, and this is what the toggle does, and this is what the control signal does, and this is what my status light means. And then everyone will know that, and they'll say, great, Tony can say status light for Jeff means this. This is what I'm controlling.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. If we can see what we're doing for Anna's thing too, if we're able to control hers.
Yeah, that's a whole other. I'm not sending Anna anything at the moment because I wasn't sure I was supposed to.
I think Jackie will get back to us on that one.
Jackie will tell us. Okay. She's been wanting a nickname for a long time, and for years now it's been Wise One, but I think it's going to be Jackie O. Unless she stops wearing glasses.
That's a good one though. I mean, could be worse nicknames for sure.
We might have just lost our video artists.
Oh no.
I'm sorry.
That's a good.
I love you, Anna. I apologize.
It's a good thing to be called, right, Jackie O?
Yeah, but I don't think people are gonna make that.
Doesn't matter.
So it's glass.
We were watching Seinfeld. We've been watching a lot of Seinfeld the last few weeks, and there's one where, wasn't it like right after Jackie O died, Elaine went to interview for a job? Do you remember this, Jeff? I feel like you probably watched a lot of Seinfeld.
I remember that there was a Jackie O episode, but I don't remember more than that.
Yeah, some dude, she went to interview, and her and the interviewer kept going back and forth about like grace and how graceful Jackie O was. And the interviewer was like, there is or there isn't grace. You're not somewhere in the middle.
That's right.
So you're graceful.
I
That's a
remember
graceful
the
nickname.
John one more, the Virgin one. I remember that one better than the Jackie O one.
I don't think I saw that.
No,
one.
that's the one where she goes to yoga class and John Kennedy Jr. is in the yoga class and she loses it. I think that's the one where I think that might be the
It's the one with the bat.
is that the masturbation one?
That one I only caught like half of that episode, so
Yes, I think that's it.
I missed the John Jr.
That's
with
right.
the-
That's the masturbation one. She can't hold it back because John's in her yoga class. And then that's also the one where Jerry's dating a virgin.
Yeah, she walks in and puts money in it.
Should I cut the stream now?
Oh, wait. No, we want people to hear us
let's
just
cut it
talk
because
about
this is
Seinfeld.
yeah, right. we're not even broadcasting our faces, so just cut it.
Right.
Yes, the
Cut it
stream.
out.
I think